Hmm. Hmm. Good morning. It's December 6th, and today we're in Second John, and a very short letter, very similar to First John. Content's quite a bit smaller, obviously, than when we had in First John, but there's something I wanted to talk about just at the end of this letter, because it's typical of first century letters. It says this: "I have much to write to you, but I do not want to use paper and ink. Instead, I hope to visit you and talk with you face to face, so that our joy may be complete." Um, that's an important understanding for what we have for New Testament letters. What I understand is that it was considered rude to write a letter to somebody without having an intention to come and visit them later. And so you often see that in Paul's letters. He'll say, "I'm coming to you soon," or "I'm sending somebody to you because I'm in jail and I can't come myself." And so there was an expectation, it seems, to not just write letters back and forth, but to long for personal contact and interaction with one another. It's something that I've thought about. We've talked a lot about in the last few years since pandemic, was that there was a time when we couldn't meet together as we regularly did, and there was a lot of controversy about that. Should we meet together? Should we find a way to be outside? How do we go about doing that? But there can be no mistaking that there was a longing for Christians to get together face to face, and even now, several years later, there are still people who haven't come back to church, and something about fear or habit or whatever it is has kept them from reuniting with the people of the church. But it was certainly an understanding of the first century church that they would long to be together as a body and minister to one another, to have fellowship together. I'd say that's not even a New Testament concept. This is what the temple was about in the Old Testament. God intended for his temple to be in one particular place so that people would come and gather together several times a year to encourage one another and to just share in the fact that they had one same identity. Even when Jeroboam becomes king in the north and he decides to set up false places of worship, he understands that a big part of people coming together is having a national identity, a national unity. So even though we aren't, as Christians, a nation in the kind of traditional sense of that word nation, we are one body, we are united, we do need one another, and it's important for us to long to be with one another, not just to write to one another, not just to watch on TV or something like that, but actually to be sharing with each other face to face and to have the complete joy that comes from that. So I appreciate that John writes about that and includes it in his letter. It's a helpful understanding of what's going on in the first century.